Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. James Cracknell is the CEO of Integrated Solutions, a financial management company working on both sides of the Atlantic. She had to build a network from scratch when she moved to the UK, but she feels it was a very worthwhile thing to do. Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast today, Jordan.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, people will hear straight away from your accent that you're not originally from the UK. So where are you from and how did you end up here?
I am from New York, and I lived in New York until about 2018, when I decided that I was going to go and study abroad at the University of Cambridge for my MBA, which is a Master's in Business Administration. And my first day there, I met my husband, who is British, and I stayed. Got married here. I live now in London, and it's great. So it was very unexpected, but a pleasant surprise.
Yeah. Now, you work in the field of finance. Is that something that you've always been interested in?
Yes, I have always loved working in finance, and it's interesting. So both my parents worked in finance in New York, and when I was growing up, my father worked at the World Trade Center, and there at the time in the 90s, there was a Take Your Daughters to Work Day every year. And so he would take me to work, and this program was actually very well designed. They would take you from department to department and really introduce you into the world of finance. And that was my first real foray into the world of finance and seeing how it worked. And frankly, it just seemed like a lot of office workers and at the time, a lot of pneumatic tubes because stock traders used the pneumatic tube system, which the World Trade Center had, to send in the trade orders to the trading floor, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember them because they were very loud when they would arrive. And during university, though, I didn't know kind of what I wanted to do. And so I ended up doing event planning throughout university.
Okay, yeah.
It was easy to fit in around my schedule, and it did pay very well. And it did also allow me to work on big budgets and Excel and learning all of that. And I thought that was a very good grounding for working in finance, because once you work on a large budget, you're not really afraid of big numbers after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I graduated, interestingly enough, that event planner shared office space with an investment bank, which was a very weird little coincidence. So I marched on over and I said, "Hi, may I work for you?" And they said, "Sure." And that was kind of it. It was a very easy job, which I got almost spoiled by on how easy that job was, because no other job I've ever gotten has ever been that easy. Going forward.
And what was it about what they were doing in investment banking that really attracted you?
You know, it's interesting because at times during the event planning, I wouldn't have anything to do. It would just be a little dead. And so I would naturally just go over and talk to them. And I started doing some work for them on the side. And it seemed like it was work that I could do, that it wasn't that difficult. And so I felt confident about doing the work, and I suppose I liked the numbers of it all. I liked the math, and I liked Excel. And I know that's like a weird thing to say to many people, but it just made sense to me what they were doing.
Yeah.
It felt comfortable.
Yeah. No, the world of finance is often sort of depicted as being very male, or certainly in the past, very male dominated. Is it still so?
Oh, yes, very much so. And it's interesting because banks now actively recruit a 50%, male-female ratio into these banks. but the rate of attrition is so high, over time for women. They leave the workforce for babies, for whatnot, and it is difficult. It is very, in terms of a work schedule, it's a very time consuming work schedule. I mean, you're in that office for 12 hours a day. And so fitting a family around it can be challenging.
Yeah.
Especially if you might not have support, at home.
Yeah.
And so a lot of women end up kind of dropping out as they move ahead in their careers.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you mentioned
Unfortunately.
that first job that you had in finance was pretty easy to get, but it hasn't been like that since then. Tell me how tough it has been to get where you are.
Well, so I graduated in 2007, and then 2008 and 2009 were crazy years. There was a recession
Yeah.
and not fun. And so I felt like a frog jumping on lily pads because I kept working for companies that would go under. And it would be the craziest thing. I'd get in there, and like 5 months later, they'd say, "Oh, we're closing up shop. It's time to get a new job." And oh, it was so crazy. I just kept switching jobs for
And
that time. And it wasn't easy. And I took pay cuts in order just to get a job. I
yeah.
took pay cuts just to get a job.
Yeah.
So
And I know that one of your past employers was Deutsche Bank. Tell me, you had to be pretty determined to get in there, didn't you? Tell me that story.
incredibly so. I was 26, 27 or so. And I said to myself one day, I just remember walking along a park by the river, the Hudson River, and I said to myself, Jordan, if you really want to do this, you should really go all in. Like, just go all in. And I made it my mission to get into what they call a bulge bracket bank, and those are the banks that you would, and many people would recognize:
Yeah.
Goldman Sachs, HSBC, Deutsche Bank. And for about a year, I networked. I called more than 100 people, cold called them, after I found their information on LinkedIn. I would cold call them and just guess what their email was. I did a lot of that, and I did a lot of like calling the main directory to get to them. And finally I met a man, and this man said, I don't have any jobs for you, but you could try calling this number and seeing what happens. And I called that number up, and it was someone who happened to be hiring for Deutsche Bank. Within 2 weeks, I had a job. I was there. I was in the bank, and it was great. I mean, it was one of the best phone calls of my life.
Yeah.
When I got the call that I was accepted into Deutsche Bank to work there.
That's fantastic, and it's the power of not giving up, isn't it?
Yes, I really felt like I was up against a wall. I either did it or I didn't do it. And if I was going to do it, I had to do it 100%.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me about your career now.
So now I work in London. I run the UK office of our company, IWS. And we primarily do compliance and operations for smaller hedge funds and other broker-dealers. And I run an office of about 7 people, mostly women who are coming back into the workforce. And it's great. I love my job. I'm very happy with it. And, I think we've built something really great here, and it's growing every day.
So you're working on both sides of the Atlantic. Are there differences working here and working in the US?
There are some differences just in terms of I suppose that Americans are a little more forthright with things. It's not that they're rude or anything like that, though it could be construed as being rude at times. But I think there's that phrase, a New York minute. And so a lot of the finance workers in America follow this New York minute type. They need the information now, and they go on their way. Whereas I think here in the UK, there's almost, I would say, a little more, people are more civil. And so therefore, there's a politeness, there's a conversation, and no one's trying to rush you off the phone immediately.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, in I know that in your spare time, which sounds like you don't have a lot of, Jordan, you've written a book. Tell me about your book.
yes, I've written a book, and the background essentially is that I wrote a children's book about a little fox who likes to count. And that is because I did some research and like essentially put out a survey to 1,000 parents
Yeah.
to find out if they talk to their daughters about careers in finance. And many of them don't. It was pretty obvious about that. But if they did, they didn't even know how to.
Yeah.
And I thought that was too bad, because really, to get girls interested in maths and numbers, you have to get in really early
Yeah.
with them, ages 5, 6, 7. So after I found out about this, I decided to write a little story about a little fox named Penny who likes to count and ends up becoming the town counter for her Arctic village, and therefore transforms the town through her love of numbers. And it's just a really great book. It's on Amazon. All the proceeds go to charity. And, I think it's gotten very good reviews. It's gotten like a 4-star rating on Amazon. So it's good to read.
Yeah. And what would you want the children to take from reading your book?
I would hope that they get confidence in going down a path of mathematics. And I think a lot of girls might not feel that confident in pursuing math and maths and numbers and whatnot.
Yeah. Would you like to see there being sort of more education in schools around financial literacy? Because there's not a lot at the moment, is there?
There is not a lot. That's correct. And that is unfortunate, that in a way that's kind of been cut. I feel like growing up, even when I was growing up, I'm 40 years old, we still had some home economics classes where you learned some of this stuff, basic budgeting skills. And, over time, it feels like that's not part of a curriculum anymore, which is unfortunate. And certainly math should be in schools a little bit more. And therefore, actually, I am for the maths continuing until age 18. I think it's A levels here, or it's mandatory to take it throughout the school, the entire time you're in school, because even those extra 2 years, it really helps, going forward. Math is never going to go out of fashion. You need math every single day. And a lot of people feel very unconfident about money and even their own personal home budgets, which is really unfortunate, because you don't need to. It's your money. You should feel confident about what money you have and how you're spending it.
Yeah, yeah. So do you have any plans to write any more children's books?
Not at this current time. I would potentially write a young adult book. Going forward. Maybe Penny gets a little bit older. Maybe she's going out in the world a little bit, and more of a 12, 13, 14-year-old book, so that readers can kind of move from one book to another as they grow up.
Yeah. So what are your plans and your ambitions for your business?
Wow, that is a really good question. I think that my plans and my ambitions for the future with my office is to continue in growing the business. We every day we have more business coming in, and I would love to be in a position where we could hire more people, where we can just expand out more into Europe. It's just, I only want the best things.
Yeah. So how important has networking been for you and your business?
incredibly. So I go to so many networking events. Some of them are very boring and you're like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? But you never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can always meet someone at, when you're getting a drink or you're eating cheese or whatever. It's just good to know people and it's just good to be out there. For instance, we found a client. I was out actually at a co-working office space one day. I was just in a little shared office space, and this man was on the phone and he said, "Oh my God, I have to go find a compliance person." And as soon as he got off that phone, I said, "Hi, I'd like to introduce myself to you. That's what our company does."
Yeah.
And we moved forward with that. So networking is very important. That's a brand new client we got from that.
Yeah, and I think you just kind of have to be open to things suddenly happening like that sometimes, don't you? Things out of the blue.
Yes, yes, you have to be open to it and you have to just be confident in going for it right then and there.
Yeah.
I never feel ashamed about any of my conversations. If they don't want to do anything with us as for business, fine, but at least I've tried. I hate to negotiate with myself and say no to myself. I'd rather the other person just say no.
Yeah, yeah. Now, as you said at the start, you didn't come to the UK until 2018, I think you said. So how easy was that to kind of start again, I guess, and build a network?
That was very difficult because that also so I came in 2018 for school, and then I was going back and forth a lot to New York. So I feel like I was like part-time England. So when I came here full time, it was literally right before COVID. I moved everything over and I got here and everything shut down. And my only friends that I could see were the friends I made at Tesco. So I went to Tesco a lot. Um, so that was not easy. That really set me back.
Yeah.
I now have a good array of friends, but that certainly set me back by, a year or so.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
are there some networks that you go to? So I'm thinking of the financial kind of events now where there are very few women in the room.
Yes, so they have there's a great number of conferences here in the UK and in London, some of which you have to pay for, some of which are free. So, the Financial Times puts on some, Politico puts on a few. There's various hedge fund awards and whatnot that you can go to or one can go to uh, if you pay to go. It kind of depends on how much you want to spend on the networking, but certainly there are free networking events that are sponsored by magazines, by financial magazines or publications that are worth going to. I mean, they're all worth going to. I mean, it's I would never not go to a networking event. They're fun. You can go, you can have a drink. It's great.
Yeah. Now, I know something you would like to do is encourage more young women to consider a career in finance. Why? What do you get from it, Jordan? Sell it to us.
I think it's because I wished when I was growing up that there were more women working in finance that I could talk to and go to for advice. And I often felt it was challenging because those women just didn't exist.
Yeah.
And so it was a struggle for me because who could I go to when I was, working at a hedge fund and I had questions about pitch books and I maybe I just didn't want to talk to all the guys. Sometimes I just wanted to talk to a woman and talk about career progression and figure out how my life was going to go forward in finance. And it is different for a woman than for a man because you do think about, your biological clock ticking and how to make that all work. Whereas, okay, men kind of think about that, but it's not a big clock in their
Yeah.
own head, I feel. I mean, and so I really wouldn't want younger women going forward in their careers saying, well, where are the female mentors that I can look up to? They have to exist, for someone to be able to mentor you.
Yeah. And do you see yourselves being a role model?
I do. I do because there have been numerous women who've come up to me and asked me for advice in terms of working in finance, or just even some of them just coming to me and asking about budgeting and other life skills like that, that I've been able to help with. Some women I've sat down with and I've gone through Excel. I'm just very good at Excel, and so I was able to kind of teach them the basics of Excel. So I would say so, yes. Yes, I would agree that I am, someone people could look up to. But I would frame it more as I'm happy to be a helping hand to people who need help.
Yeah. And so what is the best thing about your job, Jordan? What's the thing you love most about your career?
Oh, it's just going to sound so weird, but I actually really do like working in Excel and maths and like numbers. I must be like slightly autistic, which I feel like people bandy about a lot these days. But when I work on a very intense spreadsheet, I almost get meditative when I'm doing it, and it really calms me down. It makes me feel very chill and relaxed, and I actually find nothing more relaxing than that. It's its own form of meditation. It's very weird, but it really helps silence the noise around me with other things.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good thing that there are people like you in the world, Jordan, who love a spreadsheet. I'm not one of them.
Thank you.
So my final question then, Jordan, if people would like to contact you, what is the best place for them to find you?
I have a website, jordancracknell.com. I also am on Instagram more often than not as a millennial. So certainly either of those two ways are the best ways.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for my guest, and I hope you inspire lots of young women to follow in your footsteps.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Small Business, Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.